Hello everyone to Plan Weekly APAC edition. It's 15th of June 2023. So we have a couple of demos today. There is one announcement from Marcin. So I'll just read it out. Last quarter, as a part of technical writing OKRs, I created a tutorial. There's a link to tutorial, which was basically around how to set up an issue board for team handoff. So this quarter, I should create another one, KR that is, and plan docs are the most visited ones from my assigned groups. So the most likely candidate is to how to do issue triage in GitLab. If you have any other ideas for tutorial steps for this one, please share them here on the issue. So yeah, so in case you have any ideas regarding what additional tutorial steps the technical writing team can help us with, particularly for plan stage, feel free to add your links there and that should be covered. On to demos. First demo is from Rajan.
Pretty quite small demo to do. I'll just share my screen. Okay. You able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we have just added copy reference and copy email address links in the work items now. This is similar to what we have on issues. So if you want to copy reference of an issue or email address, you can just do it, and it's basically give you reference and the incoming email address of the issue. So similar to that, we now have it for work items. So we can do it for task and similar we have given it for objective and the key results. So we have maintained the key consistency of keeping the work item type in the button. Let's say if it is a key result, it will mention that copy key results email address. So this is similar to what we have in issue. So in issue it shows copy issue email address kind of thing. But it does the same thing. I mean, it will just give you the uh, email address and reference to that particular work item. Yeah, I mean that's what it is about this particular demo.
So do we have to do any setup? Because I remember when I was doing the changes for the move sidebar items, there was a setup that was required for the issue email address. Is there a setup required for work items as well?
Yeah, so I found it one document around that. So we just need to enable the incoming address in config GitLab YML on our local setup.
Yeah, so that applies. That's what I'm. So that applies to tasks as well. For example, if
Yes.
the issuable email address is not set up, then we'll not see it for tasks as well. Is it?
This was, I guess, related to more of. I mean, that was the common configuration. I'm not sure if there is a setting
There is
inside
no
our.
setting.
Yeah,
No.
so that JDK config is globally and it is applicable across the board, regardless of what the underlying objective type is.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And then we can get, and we are getting this from the API, right? The
Right.
email address from the API.
Right. Yeah. Any more questions? No. Okay. Over to Deepika. I guess you are next, right, for demo.
Sure. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So I've been working on, I haven't been doing demos a lot lately, but then I can show you a couple of things that I've been working recently. The latest that I've been working on is the user role badges on work item notes. So there are three kinds of badges that you see on notes: the author, the user access level, and if the author of the note is a contributor or not. So these are three different badges depending upon the access, the level of access the author note has. So author is, if you see the author role, it is basically that the issuable or the work item is created by the work item note author. So I see author here because admin created this issuable. So you don't see it on any other, because wherever the comments are by the author of the work item, you can see the author badge. The owner or the maintainer or the developer, these are the roles that you have in a project, you or the note author. So here, if you want to see how to create these level of access, I have in the MR, there are steps to create different levels of access for the project. So for this, we had to add two for this is just a front end change. You can check if the note author is the author of the work item, which information is already available. But to check that the note author is the access level of the note author, which we don't have right now, we have to we are getting it from the API, and the contributor. This is what we are getting from the API. These are two flags which we added in this milestone, and the front end is what you are seeing. It will be merged in the next milestone because of the backward compatibility. So I started it out for the backend changes, and Marcel, he helped me in, because there were n+1 queries resulting to that. So this is the backend change, and the front end will be merged in the next milestone. The other things, which I know it's not a part of the agenda, but I still wanted to show, there are a couple of things which haven't been demoed, is the internal notes. Internal notes work in the same way as we do in we see in issuables, in issues. If you write a comment here and you see this checkbox, and this will only be available to the project with certain access. So if you add an internal note here, it will be an internal note, and all the comment and the replies will also be, any reply to a main comment is also internal note, and you will see the same changes here. Yeah, so that's that. And there were some UI changes which were done both in issuables and in work items. For example, this in the main in a comment which is not internal, you can see the reply background is different, and even when you open it, this background was merged. So there were some UI changes that were also done in both issues and in work items in the same milestone. Also, there was in the dark mode also, you can check, there was some bug which was present, which I saw during this, that was also done. Other than that, this is a description diff also, which was there, which was merged in the last milestone, not this one. But you can check it out how it works. It works the same way as in issuables, but just to give you a different a little info on how it works. When you change the description of any work item or issuable, within 10 minutes, it results in the same system note. For example, if you see a system right now, if I change the description here, I don't know if within 10 minutes, for example, if I keep on changing it again and again, from the backend, I'm getting all the system notes, and they are being they are being scanned through. If it's within the time reference is within 10 minutes, in the front end we only show one, and all the system notes with the 10 minutes apart are shown on the work item. So if you look at this, right now this change is a REST API, which there are plans of changing that to GraphQL endpoint. Delete and fetch the diff are in REST, but then they will be changed into GraphQL. There are plans of doing that, but it's not like prioritized or planned right now, but we have an issue for that. So yeah, there are a couple of other things, UI here and there, that you can see, but yeah, these are the major changes in work items that I've been working on. So yeah.
So not strictly related, but I see that emoji buttons are present on notes for a while now,
I'll
but
tell you
I
why.
don't think, yeah, but I don't think those are working. And I was discussing Epics to work items migration plan with Amanda, and this was one of the things that was brought up, that in terms of like discussion features, what is the parity that we have between work items and Epics today, and what are the things which are missing? And I said that emojis are, I think, under progress, but haven't been completed yet.
Yeah, so this is also something that I was personally thinking of looking into, because in my local I have the work items MVC2 flag on,
Okay.
and it doesn't work. So this is not something that I have been working on actively. I think Simon started it,
Right.
but then yeah, I have to like see what is the status. But yes, I'll see where it is. I looked into the issue like when it was started, so it was the same thing was happening, but I'm not really sure at what state this is in, but I'll look into it and confirm. But this is not something I've been actively working on, but I would like to get it finished. That's why I was looking at why this is the only thing, which is because otherwise, if you see in work item discussions, a lot a lot of things have been done, like more and more. Like I personally have started using tasks also, because all of the things that are present in issuables are almost there. So yeah, I know that the emojis are missing.
So Simon has yesterday sent me one MR related to this, and I guess it was working great. We are just reviewing back and forth, so we can get results. But I guess it is planned in 16.1, but
Okay.
the work is still going on. I mean, I hope we will be able to clear that today. So we are just stuck due to one test case failures, but I guess that is just a nominal thing. But I guess that will get solved today or tomorrow by tomorrow.
Okay. So you and Simon are working on an MR, which is
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, he sent me yesterday just to give you uh,
Okay.
a brief idea. So now those work items are working well. Oh, I lost my Zoom. Where did Zoom go? Oh, sorry, just pasting the link.
Okay, so I have a discussion item here, and we have Flory already on the call, so Flory can expand on it. So basically, we are proposing to have some form of visual regression testing in plan stage at least. In the past, we did propose it for entire front end of GitLab after we introduced it in GitLab UI. Once we introduced Cypress to GitLab UI, we also proposed it for GitLab project itself, but it didn't went through. But in the past, we ran into a customer escalation around roadmap where some of the bugs were very visual in nature, to the point where if we had any form of visual regression testing in place, those bugs could have been avoided. Like timeline bars on roadmap were not aligned as per the dates. Some things which are not easy to test via jest because of how the positioning and everything works on roadmap. So I brought it up in 16.0 retro as well, that this is something that we should really think about, at least for plan stage, and all the features within plan stage. So here's the proposal, and Flory brought it up in front-end vision discussion as well. So I have one question for Ezekiel here. If I understand correctly, value stream analytics, which uses charts heavily, I believe that is also one of the features that can leverage visual regression testing, right? Like how the linear regression is working, especially after we introduced it, I think in past update, like whether the chart is being rendered correctly or not, like all the bars and the lines are everything are being rendered correctly or not. So do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I think that would actually make a lot of sense. Not just for VSA, but also we've got a whole bunch of other analytics. So there's like contribution analytics, merge request analytics, all that sort of stuff. I think at the moment we tend to just test that the data set that's passed into eCharts is correct, but don't actually test like the rendered visual chart itself. So that does make sense. I guess one question I had about this, I wonder if, because we already have we already have Storybook in place in the GitLab project. So I wonder if the first step would be actually adding stories for these related features that are quite visual in nature, rather than going down the path of introducing visual testing. I mean, we can still put visual testing in as well. But I wonder if like adding stories would be like a first step towards that. That was my only thoughts.
The visual regression testing that we're interested in are on like much bigger features than just what's in Storybook. Like for us, for example, it's roadmap, which is a heavily visual thing that is actually really hard to automate, that it's all rendering as expected without visual regression testing. So we do, when it comes to Storybook, we've introduced Cypress in GitLab UI for integration tests, like for really complex components like filtered search. It's working really well, and we've had really good feedback so far, and people seem to be happy to contribute to that. The current plan, like the conversation happening in the front-end vision working group, is people want a way to write visual regression testing. So there is a conversation around Cypress. Since we already use it, it's really easy to like just bootstrap it, put it on CI and get started. And then we already have a diff tool for screenshots. So supposedly that should be really easy. And there's been, I'm trying to find, I think it's playthrough that's been recommended as well. But the thing that bothers me about introducing something else is like, it's another one. It's another way of writing tests that we are not using yet anywhere. So I'm probably going to be recommending Cypress. The goal now is to build a proof of concept and see how that goes, and try to sort of convince other people to get on board and adopt it and so on. But yeah, a few teams are interested in just like, and not just stories, like just features that are heavily visuals, like things with graphs and things like that, that you can't really test any other way.
Quick question. Do we think this would eventually, from a front-end perspective, replace feature tests, or at least maybe augment them?
I did say that in the conversation in the issue. I can share the front-end vision issue. There's a lot of different conversations happening. The issue's already been linked by Shell, but the goal is just for visual regression testing, because the problem is it has been brought before to use a JavaScript library for end-to-end tests, and we always get pushback from QA. They don't want to learn any new tool. We already have our spec. We have all the factories. For them, it's easy, so they just want to keep that. They don't, every time we just get so much pushback. So the goal in this case is just we have end-to-end tests and QA in Ruby, like feature specs, and then the Cypress folder would be front-end owned, and it's just for visual regression testing. So we write super, like the files would probably be really small. It's just about like running a set of data and just screenshot, diff it on CI, done, nothing else.
Cool. That makes sense. I think sneakily the type of feature tests. So like, could we have the distinction between feature tests and E to E tests? So I think at least from an optimized perspective, the type of feature tests we're writing would probably actually make more sense, probably as visual regression tests anyway. Because a lot of it is about like, we've got a complex state set up and we want to check that what's rendered on screen matches that state that's in.
Yes,
data.
that's all that
Cool.
we would want to do with that. Yeah, because we can't replace feature tests at the moment. It's just not realistic for many reasons. So that's not the goal.
So given that Capybara already generates screenshots, except that it only generates when the test fails, I wonder if there is a resistance of not introducing.
I think there's a
yeah.
I think there's a command that you can like manually.
So that's something else that we could look into, is to include them in feature tests using Ruby and feature, and see if we can trigger a screenshot and do a diff. It's better in the sense that it doesn't introduce another library and a separate folder and a completely separate system to maintain. But at the same time, we run the risk of it being messy, getting lost. It's all like buried into like all the other feature tests that we have. What is visual tested? What is not? Is it easy to find? Not necessarily. Like, we can explore different options, certainly, but I think there's pros and cons on both sides.
Because the advantage that we would have if we generate the screenshots and do the diff comparison via RSpecs is that we get all the setup features for free, because you can create exact scenario by using the actual backend which is being used and then generate the screenshots out of it. So if there is a change in a backend API, then we don't have to make sure that our regression testing suite is also updated to reflect those changes, and we get all those advantages for free by generating the screenshots by ourselves.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because like Cypress was really easy to set up for Storybook on GitLab UI because there is no backend. Truth is, I don't know how much setup will be required on the product to have a page that renders epics on roadmap, testing, I don't know, potentially testing permission, like which buttons are displayed based on permissions. You have different user profiles and different levels of permissions and such. And to be quite honest, I don't know how easy it is to set that up for Cypress, because it's very because it's so user-centric. It's all about like workflows and clicking on things. And in terms of setup, it could be massive. So in a case like that, yeah, we should probably look at spec screenshots.
As a possible, I'm probably shooting myself in the foot, but as a possible path forward, because we already have quite a lot of RSpec feature tests for mostly VSA, but also like issue analytics and a few other pages like that. So if we did want to go down the capybara screenshot diffing path, we could, like, in my mind, I think we could easily integrate that into our existing feature tests. I think it could be something worth exploring as well, because it'll probably encourage backend developers to also utilize it if it's already there. Just throwing some shade, but yeah, just in case.
And also, like, besides Chrome Runner that we launch via Chrome driver, there is also Firefox driver available. So it also gives us, in certain scenarios, although cross-browser compatibility doesn't bother us as much as it used to a couple of years ago, but we may still run into some situations here and there where we are using a very obscure way to style something and it is not consistent across the browsers. And that's where comparing screenshots between these two different runners would really help. And I believe we do have one of the job that tests the entire app against Firefox. I don't know whether it is enabled by default or not, but I saw the conversation a while ago that there is a runner config available in our code base to launch Firefox headless browser to test it. So anything else? Or we should call it a day or socialize? Okay, so I'll stop the recording unless we want to discuss anything that is worth recording.